The champagne flutes clinked, fake laughter rippled across the manicured lawn, and somewhere between the string quartet and the shrimp cocktails, I stood alone, an outsider at my own brother's engagement party. "Why is she even here?" someone whispered behind a wine glass. "She's just the daughter who ran away and came crawling back." Another chuckled. "Before we go any further, drop a comment. What would you do if your own family shoved you out of the life you helped build, then mocked you for coming back?" Tell me honestly, I read every word. Let's begin. I ignored them. I'd gotten used to the stares, the smirks, the polite smiles that carried daggers underneath. Still, I kept my chin high. But then it happened. That shift. A sudden silence. A heavy hush. My father's footsteps echoed like a hammer on marble as he approached. "You really showed your face here, huh?" he snarled. I didn't flinch. "Nice to see you too, Dad," I replied, offering him the same cold politeness he always served me growing up. His eyes flashed. His jaw clenched. "You've got some nerve." His voice cracked with restrained rage. "This is James's night. You showing up like this? You're a disgrace." The crowd watched, wide-eyed. Engagement parties rarely got this entertaining. "Dad," I began keeping my voice steady. I RSVP'd. I was invited by who he hissed. "You weren't invited by me, and this isn't your place anymore. I should have walked away." But I didn't. Instead, I looked him in the eye and said the truth. "You made it clear a long time ago I wasn't part of this family. I didn't come to stir anything. I just wanted to wish James well." "Wish James well," he scoffed. "After you abandoned your family, chased some fantasy life with that nobody you married, you embarrassed us. You're not my daughter anymore." And then he shoved me. Hard. My heels slipped on the edge of the stone border behind me, and just like that, I fell backward into the cold, glittering fountain. Gasps, laughter, applause. She's lucky we even let her in. My stepmother barked from across the courtyard, pearls bouncing as she chuckled and sipped her wine. "Serves her right," someone muttered. "This is better than the speeches," came a voice from behind the floral arch. I sat up, drenched, mascara running, hair plastered to my cheeks. But I didn't cry, not this time. Instead, I smiled. A slow, steady, almost eerie smile. I wiped the water from my face and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Remember this moment." That's when the front gates opened. Every guest turned. A black Bentley rolled up the stone path flanked by two matte black SUVs. Security stepped out first. Two men in crisp black suits scanned the yard. Then the driver opened the car door, and he stepped out. My husband. And not just any man. Not the nobody they thought he was when I left 5 years ago. Not the failing startup guy they mocked for being beneath our family. Not the man who once asked my father's permission to marry me with trembling hands. He was Eli Whitaker now. And as he walked toward me, tailored navy suit sunglasses glinting, his expression unreadable, every inch of him radiated quiet, terrifying power. The whole yard went pale. Even my father, even my smug stepmother, even James, who froze mid-toast with his fiancée. "Is she with him?" Someone whispered, their voice cracking. Eli reached me, offered me his hand without a word. I stood, water still dripping from my dress. He took off his blazer and wrapped it around me. Then he looked up at the crowd, dead serious, and smiled. "Thanks for keeping my wife entertained," he said coldly. "She won't be needing any of you anymore." He turned to me. "Ready, Mrs. Whitaker." More than ever, I whispered, and we walked hand in hand straight through the gasping crowd, leaving wet footprints across their perfect lawn. The car door shut behind us with a soft but powerful thud, like a final chapter slamming closed. Inside, I exhaled, slowly, still soaked, still trembling. But not from fear, from something deeper. Anger, memory, resolve. Eli reached into the console and handed me a towel. "You okay?" I nodded, wiping my face. They always find new ways to remind me I don't belong. He didn't respond right away. That's what I loved about him. He never rushed to fix the silence. He let it breathe. Then he said softly, "They'll learn soon enough." I looked at him. Not the man they once laughed at. Not the man who walked into my father's study with borrowed courage and a thrift store blazer. Not the man who was told point blank he wasn't good enough for a Whitaker. No, he was Eli Whitaker, CEO of W3 Syndicate, the silent architect behind the largest finance tech acquisitions in the country this year. The kind of man who bought buildings, not bouquets, who shook hands with power brokers my family couldn't even name. And he had done it all after they cast me out. "You told me to remember that moment," he said, eyes on the road ahead. "But I think they're the ones who should remember it." I gave a half laugh. "You think they even realize who you are?" "Oh, they do now." He wasn't wrong, because 5 minutes after we left the party, my phone buzzed. Once, then again, then 27 times. Dad was calling. I didn't answer. Then came the texts. "Harper, please call me. We didn't know. Let's talk. That was a misunderstanding. It got out of hand." It was surreal. The same man who disowned me in front of 200 guests, who shoved me into a fountain, who screamed that I wasn't his daughter anymore, now begged me to talk. But I didn't reply, because now I had something they never imagined I'd hold: leverage. The next morning, we didn't go home. We drove downtown into the concrete heart of San Francisco, to a high-rise with Eli's name etched into the marble lobby wall, W3 HQ. "Come in with me," he asked, holding the door. I blinked. "Like this, I've got wet hair, no makeup." "I need you in the boardroom." "What?" He smiled. "Because today's the day you sign your name on something they thought you'd never touch again." We took the express elevator to the 48th floor. When the doors opened, every executive stood, but not for Eli. For me. "Gentlemen," Eli said calmly, "this is Harper Whitaker. You may know her as my wife, but you should also know, starting today, she owns 51% of Crosswell Holdings." Silence. Stunned faces. Crosswell Holdings. My father's company. The one he built from scratch. The one he obsessed over like it was more sacred than family. The one he always said would only be passed on to someone strong enough, capable enough. He gave it to James. Never to me. What he didn't know was that 2 years ago, when Eli began quietly acquiring distressed companies, we stumbled across one of Crosswell's shell vendors. "You might want to look into this," he said. "There's something off." I dug deep, and what I found, Crosswell was bleeding. Fast. Debt was buried across multiple fronts. Vendors unpaid, licenses lapsed, shell contracts forged, desperation masked as control. Eli made a plan. I helped him. We didn't destroy Crosswell. We saved it discreetly, legally, strategically. We acquired 32% of it within a year, another 10% from a forgotten stakeholder in France, and the final shares yesterday morning, transferred quietly, all in my name. "Congratulations," the CFO said, finally finding his voice. "You're the majority shareholder now." I smiled. "Thank you." I signed the papers, elegant black ink across cream linen stock. And just like that, I owned the company my father swore I'd never be good enough for. I leaned back in the chair, not out of arrogance, not even for revenge, but for something better. Peace. Quiet overdue, earned peace. "Want to send the board a memo?" Eli teased. "No," I shook my head. "Let's send an invitation. Invitation to the next executive roundtable," where I smiled. Same place they threw the engagement party. 3 days later, the sun was sharp and merciless over the glass estate where it all began. The same estate where I was pushed into a fountain, where my father declared in front of 100 guests that I wasn't his daughter anymore, where I stood alone, soaked, mascara-streaked, and smiled. But today wasn't an engagement party. It was business. The invitation I sent was short, clinical. Quell Holdings, internal executive roundtable attendance, mandatory location, Whitstone Estate East Pavilion host, Harper Whitaker, majority shareholder, time 10 a.m. Reactions panic. I heard it in the voicemails. I saw it in the rushed emails forwarded to me by Eli's assistant. James was confused. My father was livid. The board was unsettled, but they came because they had no choice. At 9:55 a.m., I stood inside the marble-pillared pavilion, hair up, powder blue blazer, calm, intentional, eyes fixed ahead. They arrived on time, of course. My father had drilled punctuality into their veins. He walked in first, flanked by James and two long-standing directors. I watched his eyes land on me and stay there, unmoving, unreadable. For a long, taut second, no one spoke. Then he laughed, short, forced, hollow. "Well, this is quite a show, isn't it?" I didn't blink. "This is a board meeting, Dad, not a show." James sat slowly, face pale. My father remained standing. "So you're the one who bought it all up," he said, voice low and sharp. "Behind our backs, secretly, manipulatively. It was legal, clean, strategic," I said evenly. "Exactly how you used to operate before the desperation set in. That one hit." He flinched. Subtle but real. "I saved Crosswell," I continued. "You were too busy building James up, too blind to the storm your own decisions created, blind to your debts, blind to the fact that your company was drowning." His jaw clenched. "You think this is some kind of power play?" he snapped. "Some kind of revenge because I didn't hand everything to you?" I shook my head. "No, this is a correction." My voice didn't rise. I didn't flinch. I just told the truth. "You told the world I wasn't capable, that I wasn't worthy of your legacy, so I built my own. And along the way, I rescued yours." James cleared his throat. "You're blowing this out of proportion. We were just trying to protect what Dad built, and pushing me into a fountain was part of that." I turned to him, voice like ice. "Mocking me in front of your fiancé's family, making sure the entire courtyard knew I was unwanted." He looked down. I leaned forward, voice calm and clear, ruthless in grace. "This isn't revenge, it's reclamation of what was always mine to claim." My father exhaled. "You've changed." "No," I said softly. "I've just stopped asking for permission." The meeting went on. I rolled out the restructuring plan. My team dialed in from New York attorneys, consultants, brand architects. Eli sat quietly in the back, letting me lead. And when the presentation ended, I stood. "I'm not here to fire anyone. I'm not here to humiliate you the way you humiliated me. I'm here to run this company better than you ever let me." I turned to my father. "And starting now, you'll refer to me as Chairwoman Whitaker." Silence. Thick, reluctant, but real. He stared at me, but he didn't say a word, because what could he say? He had raised me to be quiet, to apologize, to shrink. And now he had to sit in a room I owned, with men who once ignored me, and listen as I rewrote the narrative they stole. That night, the estate felt different, like a haunted house that had finally been aired out. I stood on the balcony with Eli, sipping black tea. "No champagne. You still smiling inside?" he asked. I looked out at the garden, at the lights, at the same stones that once framed the fountain where I fell. "Yes," I said, "because they're hurting no." I turned to him, because I didn't have to destroy them to win. I just had to become someone they couldn't ignore. Later that week, I returned to the estate alone, not for a meeting, not for business, but for something else. Something that had haunted me for years. My mother's will. After she died, I asked about it. My father told me there was nothing left, that she had signed everything over to him, that she didn't believe in splitting things up. I never believed him. And now, I didn't have to, because I had the legal power to look. I stepped into his old study, the one frozen in time, same mahogany desk, same dusty glass decanters, same framed photo of James shaking hands with the mayor, not a single photo of me. I opened drawers, pulled folders, lifted ledgers, and beneath stacks of irrelevant contracts, I found it. A slim, yellowed envelope, handwritten, faded ink across the front, to Harper Whitaker, from Mom. "If they ever try to erase you, read this." My hands trembled. I opened it. Inside was a short letter, but her voice, my mother's voice, echoed in every word. Harper, if you're reading this, it means your father did what I feared, cut you out. But I need you to know something. I left everything to you. The trust, the lake house, the stocks, all of it. I saw what he tried to do to you. I saw how hard you worked, how they twisted things, how they made you doubt your own brilliance. I believed in you even when no one else did. They'll lie. They'll hide this, but the truth belongs to you. With all my love, Mom. I froze. The lake house. The one they told me had been sold years ago, that it was never mine to claim. The trust that they said was empty, that it was used to keep the family afloat. The stocks all transferred, all quietly dissolved. It was all mine. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. I was done being angry. But now I had proof, and I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to throw things. I was going to expose them, quietly, cleanly, publicly. That evening, I met with our family attorney. I laid the letter on his desk. He read it. His eyes widened. Harper, this changes everything. Good. Do you want to press charges? No. I said it calmly. I want the truth revealed, openly, at the inheritance review. He nodded slowly. Then you'll need to show up in person. I'll be there. The inheritance hearing was held in a quiet, oak-paneled room. No press, no cameras, just the people who mattered. My father, my stepmother, James, the family lawyer. I sat at the end of the table, calm, controlled, while they squirmed in silk and resentment. The lawyer stood. Before we proceed with the scheduled review of asset transfers, Ms. Whitaker has submitted new documentation in your late mother's original handwriting. My stepmother rolled her eyes. This is absurd. But the lawyer didn't even blink. The handwriting and signature have already been verified. It's real and binding. He opened the letter and read it line for line. Every word she wrote to me. Every truth they tried to bury. I didn't look at anyone while he read. I didn't need to. When he finished, silence, then a gasp, then more silence. The lawyer cleared his throat. In accordance with Mrs. Eleanor Whitaker's written and undisclosed final request, all assets, the trust, the remaining estate funds, and ownership of the lake property were meant to go to her daughter Harper. James whispered, "Wait." "What?" The lawyer continued ignoring him. "These assets were instead misappropriated. That is, legally speaking, fraud. We are currently pursuing a full investigation." My stepmother slammed her hand on the table. "We thought the trust was invalid, we were told. You told yourselves," I interrupted, finally meeting her eyes. "You lied. And then you lived off what she left for me." My father didn't speak. He couldn't. Because everything he had, every last ounce of his reputation, was now tied to an exposed fraud. I stood slowly. "You tried to erase me," I said quietly. But Mom didn't forget. The lawyer turned to me. "Harper, would you like to make a final statement?" I looked at each of them. "No revenge," I said, "just truth. I didn't come to ruin you. I came to show you who I've become. Not in spite of your cruelty, yeah, but because of it." My father blinked. Guilt, shame. Or just the realization that he had finally lost the one person he never thought could beat him. I turned to leave, and just before I walked out, I looked back one last time. "You said I wasn't your daughter anymore." Pause. "Turns out, you were right." And I walked away. Not just from that room, but from everything that had ever made me question my worth. That night, I didn't celebrate. No champagne, no toasts, just stillness. Eli and I returned to our penthouse. He cooked. I watched. We didn't need to speak, because the silence now, it was mine. Not forced, not suffocating, just peaceful. But the world didn't stay quiet, because 2 days later, the letter went viral. The attorney acting with full consent submitted a legal press release as part of the estate's reallocation. It included one excerpt from my mother's handwritten words, "They will lie. They will try to erase you. But the truth belongs to you." Some intern posted it on LinkedIn. It got reposted on X, then TikTok, and people noticed. Thousands of women commented. Stories poured in. This happened to me when my dad died. They cut me out too. I was told I didn't deserve anything because I wasn't the favorite. She said what I wish I could say. A whisper turned into a storm. Influencers picked it up. Podcasts analyzed it. Chairwoman Whitaker started trending. Not because I made it happen, because the truth finally hit air. And for the first time in years, I felt seen. A week later, I visited the lake house. The one my father swore was never mine. The one my stepmother claimed they had to sell. Turns out, they didn't sell it. They leased it to an old colleague of his, under a shell LLC. But guess what? The property title had reverted back to the trust, my trust. When I arrived, the sun was low over the water, golden, soft, the same light I remembered from childhood. I stepped onto the porch, key in hand, unlocked the door. It creaked open. And for a second I stood there frozen in the doorway. Because it hit me. All those years, all those lies. And yet here it was, still mine. I walked inside. The furniture was different, but the bones were the same. Same stone fireplace, same scuff on the entry floor where I dropped my ice skates that one winter. Same view from the back deck. I walked out to the dock, sat on the edge, shoes off, feet dangling just above the water, and I finally cried. Not tears of grief, not even rage, tears of return, of quiet power reclaimed. I didn't sue my father, didn't press criminal charges, but I did petition for full transparency. A public record of asset misappropriation was filed, my name cleared, the story cemented. When asked why I didn't take them down, I answered simply, because I didn't need to. My mother left me more than assets. She left me her belief, her clarity, her voice hidden in a drawer waiting for me to rise. And I did. A few weeks later, I hosted a gathering. Not a gala, not a showcase, a community roundtable at the lake house. Women in leadership, young founders, daughters like me, who'd been overlooked, cut out, underestimated. I shared what my mom wrote. I showed them the room where she used to braid my hair. I let them walk the dock, touch the walls, feel the legacy that was almost erased. And together we reclaimed more than one estate. We reclaimed space. That evening, Eli met me back at the house. He stood at the threshold of the dock, hands in his pockets. "You sure you're ready for tomorrow?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah, let's go back to where it started." The following morning, we returned one last time. To the estate, to the manicured lawn, to the place where it all shattered and where I had quietly rebuilt everything from the ground up. Only this time it wasn't a party. It was a press briefing. The company Crosswell Holdings was restructuring its public image, and they needed a statement from the new chairwoman. I chose to deliver it from the courtyard, the same courtyard where I was shoved into a fountain. The guests gathered under crisp white canopies. Journalists, board members, analysts, shareholders. No champagne, no shrimp cocktails, just microphones, cameras, and truth. I stepped up to the podium, hair-pinned, black blazer, clear eyes. I didn't look for my father, but I saw him off to the left standing behind a small group of board advisors, James beside him visibly uncomfortable. I cleared my throat. "Thank you all for coming. My name is Harper Whitaker, chairwoman of Crosswell Holdings." Flashbulbs, pen scratching. This company was once built on power, legacy, and discipline, but over time it became something else, a fortress with no windows, a dynasty that shut its own doors to change, to new voices, to women like me. I paused. No dramatics, just wait. 5 years ago, I was told publicly that I didn't belong here. I was erased from this family, shoved, mocked, discarded. A reporter's camera shutter snapped audibly. I didn't flinch, but I didn't come here to rehash pain. I came to tell you this. When people strip you of your name, your rights, your dignity, You do not have to scream to reclaim them. You just have to keep walking until the road bends in your direction. Someone gasped softly. My father shifted, still silent. This courtyard is the same place where I was pushed into a fountain. Today it's the place where I reintroduce myself, not as the girl who left, not as the daughter who failed, not as the woman who married down, but as the leader who turned rejection into strategy, exile into ownership, silence into strength. And as of today, this company and every piece of it belongs to a woman who was once told she would never be enough. Turns out, she was more than enough. I stepped down. No applause, no bows, just a stillness, a reckoning. And behind me, I heard someone whisper, "She didn't burn the bridge. She became the ocean." That night, Eli and I stood on the penthouse balcony. The city stretched out below us like a soft heartbeat. He wrapped his arms around me from behind. "Proud of yourself?" he asked. I smiled. "No, not proud." I turned to him, voice quiet. "I'm free." Because in the end, I didn't destroy them. I didn't expose them in anger. I didn't need revenge. I just refused to disappear. They said I wasn't family anymore. And they were right. I wasn't part of their family because I'd built my own legacy. One they couldn't rewrite, one they couldn't control. And this time, I didn't need their seat at the table because I owned the whole damn building. Have you ever been underestimated by the people who were supposed to protect you? Drop your story in the comments. I read everyone. If Harper's journey moved, you hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs a reminder that power doesn't have to be loud, it just has to last.